Most people wake up already tired, not because the day has begun, but because their mind is already fighting it. They brace for irritation, distraction, and disappointment, then wonder why peace feels distant. Stoicism begins with a quieter idea. Life does not become lighter by forcing happiness into it. It becomes lighter when resistance is reduced. The Stoics never promised constant pleasure. They offered steadiness. They taught that feeling better each day is not about chasing moods, but about training perception. When you adjust how you meet events, events lose their power to disturb you. This is not passive acceptance. It is disciplined alignment with reality. You stop demanding that the world cooperate with your preferences. You start cooperating with the world as it is. In that shift, tension softens, mental noise lowers, a subtle confidence appears. You are no longer arguing with existence. You are working with it. The habits you are about to hear are simple by design. Simplicity is not weakness. It is refinement. These practices do not add more to your life. They remove what never belonged there in the first place, and that is why they work. Stoicism was shaped by men who carried responsibility, uncertainty, and loss without surrendering clarity. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire under constant threat, yet wrote reminders to remain just, calm, and inwardly free. Epictetus began life as a slave and taught that dignity is not granted by circumstance, but secured by judgment. Seneca advised emperors while warning against being owned by ambition, fear, or excess. None of them spoke about feeling good as an emotional goal. They spoke about living well as a rational discipline. For them, peace was a byproduct of order within the mind. They believed daily habits shape character, and character determines experience. What you practice repeatedly becomes your default response under pressure. These thinkers were not idealists. They were realists who understood human weakness and trained against it. The habits ahead are drawn from that same tradition. They are not techniques for escape. They are methods for strengthening the inner position from which you meet everything else. Stoic Habit 1. Begin the day without complaint. The contrast is familiar. Most mornings begin with resistance. The alarm feels unfair. The obligations feel heavy. The mind complains before the body even moves. This creates friction before the day has started. The Stoic insight is simple. Complaining does not change reality. It only adds a second problem to the first. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he would meet interference, ingratitude, and delay, and that none of it was unexpected. Expectation dissolves resentment. When you stop demanding comfort, discomfort loses its sting. Daily application begins the moment you wake. Before reaching for stimulation or forming judgments, remind yourself that nothing has gone wrong. The day is behaving according to nature. Your task is not to approve of it, but to meet it correctly. Move deliberately. Accept the temperature, the schedule, the responsibilities. This is not submission. It is alignment. You conserve energy by not wasting it on protest. Over time, this habit produces quiet strength. You become someone who starts grounded rather than reactive. Feeling better does not come from perfect mornings. It comes from refusing to poison the morning with unnecessary resistance. Stoic Habit 2. Separate what is yours from what is not. Most emotional exhaustion comes from carrying what was never yours to hold. Other people's opinions, outcomes, moods, and timing invade the mind and drain it. The Stoic contrast is control versus concern. Epictetus made this distinction central. Some things depend on you, some things do not. Confusing the two creates anxiety. The Stoic insight is that peace follows clarity. When you know what belongs to your responsibility, you act decisively. When you know what does not, you release it without bitterness. Daily application is continuous. When tension appears, pause and ask one question. Is this within my control? If it is, act with care and effort. If it is not, drop the internal struggle. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. Over time, this habit reshapes your emotional economy. Energy returns, focus sharpens. You become difficult to disturb because fewer things are allowed inside. Feeling better is not about gaining more control over life. It is about releasing the illusion that you ever had control over everything. Stoic Habit 3. Practice voluntary discomfort. Modern life trains avoidance. Discomfort is seen as a failure instead of a teacher. The contrast is constant ease versus chosen challenge. Seneca advised regularly exposing yourself to less, so that fear of less disappears. The Stoic insight is that comfort weakens resilience when it is never interrupted. Voluntary discomfort reminds you that you can endure more than the mind predicts. Daily application does not require extremes. Choose small acts. Take a colder shower. Eat a simpler meal. Walk without distraction. Sit with silence. These moments recalibrate your nervous system. You learn that discomfort passes and that you remain intact. Over time, this habit builds confidence without arrogance. You stop fearing inconvenience, and that alone improves daily well-being. Feeling better is not about eliminating difficulty. It is about proving to yourself repeatedly that difficulty does not control you. Stoic habit 4. Speak less, observe more. Many people exhaust themselves through constant expression. Opinions spill without purpose. Reactions replace reflection. The contrast is noise versus restraint. Stoicism values measured speech because words shape thought. The Stoic insight is that silence creates space for judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that tranquility comes from doing fewer things better. Daily application begins with listening. When provoked, pause before responding. When tempted to explain yourself, ask if explanation is required. Observation strengthens discernment. You begin to see patterns, motives, and your own impulses more clearly. This habit reduces conflict and regret. You waste less energy repairing unnecessary damage. Feeling better often comes from what you do not say. Silence is not withdrawal. It is control. Stoic habit 5. End the day with honest review. Days often end the same way they begin, with distraction. The contrast is unconscious drift versus conscious closure. Stoics practice daily review not for guilt, but for calibration. Seneca described examining his actions to reinforce discipline. The Stoic insight is that awareness improves tomorrow. Daily application is brief and direct. At the end of the day, ask what you did well, where you reacted poorly, and what can be corrected. No drama, no self-punishment, only accuracy. This habit turns experience into instruction. Over time, mistakes lose their power to repeat. Feeling better emerges from progress, not perfection. These habits are not tasks to complete. They are signals of identity. You are not trying to feel good in the shallow sense. You are training yourself to be stable, clear, and internally ordered. Stoicism does not remove emotion. It puts emotion in its proper place. When you practice these disciplines daily, something subtle changes. You stop chasing relief and start embodying steadiness. External conditions fluctuate, but your response grows consistent. That consistency becomes confidence. Confidence becomes calm. This is how Stoics felt better every day, not through comfort, but through coherence between thought, action, and reality. There is nothing dramatic about this path. That is its strength. Quiet discipline outlasts loud motivation. If you apply these habits patiently, the mind becomes a place of refuge rather than conflict. That is not escape, that is mastery.